are live, and hey, listen, we're live. Go ahead on and tag and share. So, how your day been, man? It's been going
Oh
so.
man, that's pretty good so far. It only gets better when you're on the radio.
Yeah. Well, we are definitely on, and I'm glad to have you. This would probably be my first. This is, I believe. I don't think you've ever. I don't think you've ever been on this show with us. So we're going to. Want to say good afternoon and once again, welcome to, that's right, it's Wake Up Wednesday right here on, that's right, hallelujah, 95.3 FM. Want to say good afternoon. Hey, listen, I want everybody to go ahead on and tag, share, all of our virtual platforms. Go ahead on, let's tag, share, let's get everybody in for it. We are excited about today's guest. It's going to be an amazing show. Amazing broadcast. I'm sitting here with one of our city commissioners, Mr. Jeremy Matlow, commissioner for uh, District C3 in the city of Tallahassee. So I want you to go ahead on and tag and share. Let's get everybody in on this wonderful Wednesday. It's the beginning of a new month. And you know, in the new month of March, we are rolling out. That's right. We're rolling out two new voices to the Great James Community Show, and we're excited about that. One of them being Nikki Collins with Life in the Now. She's going to be every second Wednesday of the month, and then there is going to be Felicia Stanley. That's right, Raw Combos with Felicia. That's every third Wednesday, and then the fourth Wednesday you got the Conscious Chick. And then the first Wednesday, you got me with inspiring, informational, innovating conversation. And I'm kicking off the month with real hot conversation. Hey, it's buzzing all over the city. And I'm excited about what we're doing here on the Great James Community Show. The show has been in existence for well over 15 years. And I'm so glad about it. And as we move into the time of bringing on new voices, we're going to do something a whole lot different. We're going to get sponsorships to help. Many of you have asked, why haven't I? And basically because I just been sponsoring so that, you know, I call the shots like I call them. But we're going to open up to give some of our sponsors an opportunity to partner with us. Thank you for all that you're doing in our community. All right, well, let's get down to it. I want you to go ahead on and tag and share. Joining me in the studio, he is the city commissioner of the great city of Tallahassee, Mr. Jeremy Matlow, commissioner for C3. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon. It's great to be here.
Man, listen, I'm excited about having you here. As a matter of fact, I don't believe in the years that I've been doing radio here at Hallelujah 95.3. I've had you on.
Yeah, not at this station. I think we did one on your previous gig.
Yeah, we did. We really did. But over here, it hasn't. And so I'm excited about having you on. I'm excited about diving into some of the conversations that I feel like are necessary to have. And certainly, I want to thank you for accepting the invite to come and join me. And with that being said, who is Jeremy Matlow? I got about 12,000 people that are tuned in right now. The numbers are going to get higher as we continue this conversation. But who is Jeremy Matlow?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm a city commissioner. I've been a city commissioner for 6 years. But I got here because I grew up in Tallahassee. I was raised by a single mother of 4 kids on the south side of the city. We grew up struggling. We grew up, hard. I was fortunate enough to build there's a nice community in Tallahassee that kind of supported me along the way, got me through high school, into college, started a local business, a few local businesses. The first couple failed, but Gain Street Pies is the one that we were known for. And in that role as a business owner, started going down to City Hall, started getting pulled into different issues that were, whether it was the permitting process or the sign code or neighborhood development that was happening, and going down to City Hall to kind of voice our concerns during public speaking and that sort of thing. And at the time, it was when the FBI investigation was at an all-time high, and it really felt to us in the community, it was just falling on deaf ears.
Wow.
Right? People were so preoccupied and whatever was going on, we weren't really addressing these kind of individual issues that needed to be addressed. And I was at a great point in my life. I just got married, just had a kid. Our businesses were doing well, and these seats opened up, and I thought, man, what a great way to serve the community.
So wait, let me stick a pin in it. So here you are, you're going down to City Hall, you are engaging in the civic aspect of life, you are participating in meetings, you're making your voice heard. In the midst of all of that, boom, the city gets hit with FBI investigations, and now you're saying, wow, seats are available. Let me see what can really happen from this.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think even national and state politics gets overwhelming, and people feel like it's just a tug of war. You can't really make a difference there. But what locally is, it's 5 of us up there. Your friends and your neighbors, the people you see in the grocery store, making these decisions, and they're impactful. The city has over $1 billion budget, anything from investment in our neighborhoods to gun violence to economic development, all that stuff that really impacts our daily lives happens at City Hall, which I think people were missing that and just trying to bring people back down to the city and be engaged in the process.
Wow. So there it is. Seat open up. Jeremy Matlow files to run. And what happens now?
Yeah.
And because, for me sitting here having this conversation, it's an opportunity for me to even learn more, but 2, it's an opportunity for the listeners to know more. And so that seat open, you go in. Was that the first time? Was that when Lisa Brown was running?
That's right. Yeah, Lisa Brown, Bill Shack, and a couple other people were running that year. And it was new to me. We figured it out along the way. I'd never been in politics before, never ran a campaign operation. So really it was kind of learning as we were moving along. We were up against, as you said, Lisa Brown. She had a great political consultant that was known in town, was able to raise money from some of the people, the more well-off people in town. And they were kind of pushing along the same type of campaign that I think we saw a lot of, which to me was, very smiley and happy, but without a lot of substance of really the issues that we needed to focus. So we tried to go a different direction, just really tap in with our neighborhoods and community people that felt like we did, that our government really wasn't representing the people that needed to, which was kind of the community at large. So we pushed and made a lot of calls and knocked on a lot of doors, and won by 336 votes in the end. So
yeah, and believe it or not, I was working with Lisa on that campaign. So I think that at the end of it, it really, at the end of that campaign, it was a big twist because there was a lot of people that she was anticipating that were going to be supportive of her that wasn't. And at the end, we found out they had, given their support to you. And it was a much shocking event. And with the turn of things, like you say, you won by less than 400 votes. Mm-hmm. But after all that was over, you and her had the opportunity to sit down and talk.
Oh yeah, so me and Lisa, we had a lot of fun on the campaign trail. You're against each other, so there's always kind of that, but campaigning's hard. So you also kind of bond over the fact that you're going through this onslaught of public opinion, radio shows, interviews, forums. It's a new experience for anybody, and it's tough. You're aware it's tough for anybody,
absolutely,
to run for office. But I think it's a great experience, win or lose. The amount of people you talk to, issues you didn't even know that weren't on your radar come to light. So I always encourage, if you're interested in running, I always encourage people, the more the merrier.
Wow. So now you win. It's your first time serving now at City Hall. You're on the dais. Tell me a little bit about that experience as a person who went from just coming to City Hall, addressing issues, to now you're on the dais with a pen, with the boys?
Yeah, so day one I come and I have my list, my agenda, the things I promised the people that I would be working on, and I brought them all up. I went down the list at the first meeting, and I remember Commissioner Maddox at the time, he was still serving, and he was like, "Hold on, that's not normally how we do things around here." And that's kind of the point, that's the reason I ran, is so we can push these types of issues. And interesting, that was the only meeting I ever served with Commissioner Maddox before indictments came down and he was removed. And that first 2 months, all of a sudden we're thrown into this process to appoint a new commissioner. 3 of us were brand new ourselves, so it was really trying to figure out how to work together right out of the gate to make this huge decision. And then also work with kind of city staff and try to, we were pushing for change, right? And change isn't always easy. So
Right.
trying to reframe how we did things, how we involved the public. And early on, I think we were very successful in a lot of those things we were pushing for.
So now that process took place. Someone was placed in Commissioner Maddox's position, and then now it's re-election again. I mean, the cycle shift, and you're up for re-election again. During that first tenure, what were some of the most memorable things that you feel that you were able to accomplish for the constituents of your district as well as the city of Tallahassee?
Yeah, we serve the whole city. So, I think right out of the gate, we wanted to open up City Hall and make it more accessible to the public. Back then you couldn't even get in the front door unless you signed in and you had an appointment. So we scaled back some of those regulations. We increased the range that people would be notified if changes were coming to their community, I think by threefold. And what we saw is a lot more people started to show up and speak on public issues, either for or against. And I thought that was really cool, because to me, like, government's working best when people are showing up, whether they're happy or mad. At least they're there, they're engaged, they think that they can make a difference, and they can make a difference. So that was very important. We pushed very hard for a municipal broadband network our first year, and that's just to bring high-speed internet to every area of the city. We weren't successful in getting that added to our city utility, but we did have Metronet come, a private company, and serve some of that need. I thought that was really cool. I think the whole commission worked together to add the mental health response team at TPD. When people were having mental health issues, it was always a concern of, is law enforcement the best person to go out and deal with that? Just try to couple them with counselors. And I think that's hasn't been a silver bullet, but has had success along the way. And then you can go down a laundry list of things that probably don't sound exciting to most people, but it's one road, it's one neighborhood, one project at a time that we made a difference on.
Wow. So now you're up for, that's the first, 2 years of serving, or 4 years?
Yeah, it's a 4-year term, but
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so now you're up again for re-election.
Mm-hmm.
And you're now preparing to run again. You have, in that first 4 years, you've been very vocal. You've been very vocal, and you've been making known your positions, and you have definitely created an opportunity for people to pay attention to who Jeremy Matlow is.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because you're not always in line with everything as it is on the dais. And I guess what would bring that on? That would come from the fact that you really want to see things done differently. How would you describe that?
Yeah, so I think that when I got on the city commission, that voice was missing. I felt like entirely. Somebody just advocating for people who will never come to City Hall.
Wow.
The people who will never donate to a political campaign. They're not that engaged, but the decisions we make impact them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very passionate about standing up for the people I think need our help the most. And I think we saw that explode into some people would call them fights, some people would call them battles, which brought us head to head with some powerful interest in the community. But at the end of the day, it's, people still say kids are walking on dirt paths along Tharp Street. And that's more important to make sure we get that infrastructure in place before we do some of these other things. I think I'll always be that voice, the strongest voice, I think, for the people that really feel like they're not being represented. I think it's important that we have that voice on the city commission. That the nature of those opposing positions, I think, led to some of the conflict that we're seeing today.
Wow. So I mean, and in the midst of that, you are now getting ready for re-election for your second term. And now that message is an aggressive message because your first term has been one whereby, like you say, you brought in your laundry list, like, hey, these are the things that I want to see done. You told, hey, we don't do it like this. And you said, that's the problem. So now that second election cycle happens, and it has really become a cycle whereby the whole city is talking. There is a big uproar, and your voice has been a voice that have really challenged every facet of government within the city. And how do you see that as you get ready for that re-election against David Bellamy, and I think who else? I think that was it.
Yeah, it was just David Bellamy.
Just you and him. Yeah.
So that election was different. I think that election was a test to see, one, if we had staying power, two, to see if what we were doing and saying was actually resonating with the community. And that was a crazy election cycle.
Oh, it was really crazy.
I think they spent something like $500,000, $500,000, money we've never seen really in these local elections, because I think a lot of people wanted to maintain the status quo the way things had always been, and they felt like if what we were pushing for was just a fluke, if it was just a one-off, it was just they won by 336 votes, they could just get back to business as normal without kind of really reconciling with these differences that we have in our community. So they threw everything at us. We worked every day as if it was, there's no real local polling, so you don't know if you're winning or losing. We just believe we're standing for what's just, we're standing for what's right, and we're throwing it back, and we're standing on this issue. So we had all of the powerful interests in town kind of rally against us, joining up in the Chamber of Commerce, the state attorney's comments, all these sorts of things to try to pigeonhole us. And I think what we saw was our community spoke loud and clearly. They don't want to completely change the way our city is, but they want us to come to the table and figure out how we address these issues that we're all facing, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's homelessness or basic infrastructure in neighborhoods. People still feel like that voice needs to be louder. And I think that's what that election came down to. It's like, do we want to have everybody agree all of the time, or do we want to debate ideas and push our city in the right direction
and come up with what's best for the overall city?
That's right.
So yeah, that election was an amazing election. As a matter of fact, I started out working with David Bellamy on that campaign, and then somehow, some way, I let somebody tell me you ought to run for state representative. And my God, I listened, and before I knew it, I was in what I would call one of the most politics can be this is just my perspective, it can be a very treacherous battlefield, because there are people who you think are with you until you step into that area, and then you discover they're not with you. There are people who say they are for you, and then you discover that they're against you. So I understand that, and so at that time I ended up having to back off of that campaign, because if I'd have stayed on that campaign, you beat us with Lisa, but if I'd have stayed on that campaign,
we would have only beaten by 10 points.
No. And so with that being said, you once again succeeded, and you are now serving on year 6, I believe it is. Mm-hmm. And in year 6, you created something that I thought was very interesting. You created a PAC. Why was that necessary? I mean, campaigns are important. Having the right people to serve is important. Being able to support whoever you desire to support is important. But I mean, is there you caught the campaign bug?
Yeah, well, I think what it is, about a decade ago, the Citizens United decision has just flooded campaigns with money. There's really no limits on how much individuals can give, how much companies can give, and what that's done is just raise the bar of how much money it takes to compete. And, my first election, I think we were talking $70,000-$80,000 total for the entire election, and $500,000 on my re-election. Just the difference in 4 years. So, we started this PAC when we saw that these grassroots candidates were getting donations from over 1,000 people locally. They were getting more individual donations than any other candidates, but they were still being outraised 5-1 or 10-1 because the people who were supporting them didn't have pockets deep enough to give $1,000 from each individual. And when we saw how much money would be raised in these, there needed to be a way to level the playing field. And I think that's what brought the One Tallahassee PAC into existence. That was the idea, to be able to fundraise on behalf of kind of the greater mission, and really push for candidates that wanted to see that type of change as well. So, I mean, we created that. We were able to compete more dollar for dollar, or maybe just be outspent 2-1. I'm not sure. But I think it's just the nature of the times and what it takes to compete in a local election now.
And when you think about elections and when you think about campaigns, there are rules that are in place. There are campaign policies that are in place. But at the end of the day, everybody who's campaigning is campaigning to win. You're not entering the race to lose. And one of the things that I was able to come to grips with was that, one, people pull out all of the stops just to try to diminish or to belittle whoever it is they are not in line with. And certainly I'm the kind of individual that, if I have a issue or if I have a concern with someone, I'm going to speak directly to them. I'm not going to let other people tell me. And I think I had your aide, me and him had a conversation, because when I was running, there were some things that, perhaps he's entitled to say because there's a freedom of speech. But it was disturbing when I was being called a Republican optic. So I met with him. We talked about it. We had a conversation. I shared my thoughts. He shared his thought. And guess what? We were good. Why? Because I'm not going to be the person who hear what you say and I don't meet with you to find out why you say what you say. I learned a valuable lesson in prison. You say what you mean what you say. If there's an issue, you deal with somebody about it. And when it's over, it's over. So we were able to have that conversation. Here it is. You've created this PAC, and this election cycle was just passed between Curtis Richardson and Dot Inman. Man, it was probably one of the most heated races in the nation, but it was local. And that race for that seat had so much in the atmosphere. How do you see yourself as a commissioner, but yet you have another candidate that you're supporting with the PAC, and it's a fellow commissioner that is in the race that you are, I don't want to say attacking, but you're campaigning for your candidate?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's unfortunate that that's where we are as a community. I think it's no secret to most people that our city is stagnant right now. People would say our city commission is toxic right now. They would say that the kind of infighting we've seen and the personal type of snipes and attacks have clouded the mission of making our city a better place. And I do think what we're seeing politically is just the natural progression of how that has played out. We've gotten to a point, I've always felt like I'm kind of in the minority vote, and it's up to kind of the majority to offer compromise and figure out how to work.
How does that feel, though? I mean, when there are things that you see the majority should line up with, but because you're in the minority, you're making different requests, motions, and it's not moving. How does that feel as a worker for the city of Tallahassee to see what you're envisioning for a better Tallahassee? It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think that's what has led the campaigns to where they're at. Because in that tough environment where we're not really moving, it doesn't seem like the needle's even moving. And if we can't get there on the dais, I didn't run for office to just be there. I didn't run for office to be commissioners. I went to office to accomplish the things that we wanted to accomplish. So because that divide got so strong on the city commission, it really feels like there's not really any recourse. If we can't find compromise at the table, the next solution is to go to the people and see if they want to change the people who are up there. And I think that conflict overspilled into kind of our elections and created this us versus them cycle after cycle every 2 years. And I don't think the results have been helpful for Tallahassee. I don't think anybody would say we moved tremendously in the last 4 years, 6 years, or really have a clear vision of where we're going from here. So I do think ultimately, while these conversations need to happen, right? We need to have conversations about what's best for our community, and then put it to a vote. But we have to figure out how, if we have a community where I'm getting elected by 56%, Commissioner Richardson, Commissioner Emmett Johnson are splitting down to 1%. That feels like our community is so divided, and it's because both sides of our community, our whole community, wants to see their values represented, and we're failing at delivering, probably for both sides right now.
Wow. So here you are now. We are looking at, we're looking at the city of Tallahassee as a whole. You've now been serving 6 years. Do you feel that there is at least some level of trying to unify as a group of commissioners, or do you feel that you're still in the minority and it's probably not going to change?
Yeah, so right now that's how I feel. I can't speak of what's in other people's hearts and what their desires are, but I can speak for me, and I like to see things be done differently. And I'm open to that conversation. I'm open to changing the way I communicate with other people on the dais or other people in our community. If we can really come to the table in an honest and productive way and address the most pressing issues, because I think if those continue to get clouded, there's no point in any of us. You might as well just kick us all out and just let it run on autopilot, right? I'm trying to make a proactive effort, to reach across the aisle, to reach across the community and say, hey, I'm here, willing to do things differently, who really wants to focus on what's best for the community. And if you do, let's get together, let's find common ground, and let's move forward.
Wow, big step. Now the question becomes, how hard is that? When we look at your past record, your past positions, how hard is it you feel for that majority side to see and to understand that if we don't unite and come together, we're still going to be moving in circles?
I think it's hard, but I tell people I'm in the restaurant business, I'm in the hospitality business, so I'm used to people being upset.
Okay.
Being upset at me when they're hungry. That really brings out people's feelings. But I think when you take a step back and you really try to just figure out what the underlying issues are, I think we can find resolution. I don't think anything is irreparable or irreparable. I think, if they feel the same way I do, which is and most of the people I talk to in the community do, that we are in this place of stagnation, it's incumbent on all of us to put our best foot forward.
And with the climate that we're in, when we look at the climate that we're in, I don't think it can no longer be us versus them or them versus us. I think with the climate that we're in, we have to be able to come to a level field to whereby we know it's about the people. How do we serve the people that have placed us here to serve? How do we make city government better for the people? I understand that Just here the other day in a meeting, you extended to have the South Side Transit Center named after Curtis, Commissioner Richardson. And there was a little pushback. And I think Commissioner Cox said, before we do that, there needs to be an apology for the campaign rhetoric that was brought forth. I mean, where did that leave you? I mean,
Yeah, well, on that, campaigns are tough. They're tough on everybody. They're tough on everybody's family. In 2018, my first campaign, probably like yours, I didn't know what I was getting into. I got arrested in my early 20s. Charges ended up dropped, and then 2018, everybody got a mailer with my mugshot on it, implying that I was a criminal. That hurts, right? That hurts. And it's tough on your family. It's tough on your kids. I hope we can move past that type of campaigning, but what we do in the city commission chambers should be different. We should be able to disagree on the underlying policy, cast our votes without letting it become personal. And that's kind of what I was trying to let Commissioner Richardson know. I don't have any animosity against Commissioner Richardson. There's nothing personal. I don't have any personal bad feelings against him. And the Southside Transit Center is a signature accomplishment that he's most single-handedly responsible for.
Absolutely.
His role in the Blueprint Sales Tax Committee to make sure that project got in there. He pushed to expand the CRA district to include that Orange Avenue corridor. So my point was let's not let the infighting make us not acknowledge the accomplishments and the good work that we are doing. Let's put those political differences aside. I wish the vote would have went a different way. I understand feelings can be raw and emotions can be high, and maybe it can just be addressed at another time.
Yeah, I thought that was. I thought to recognize and honor him with that type of honor was definitely a legacy within itself, and considering. He's constantly making us aware that he is from the South Side, and, that's where we know him from. He lives there. His house has gotten broken in, so he knows the South Side. So I thought it was an honor to, have that on the table for discussion. And so I just think a moment was missed. I don't know whether we go through campaigns and apologize after every campaign is over. I don't know. But I do know that at the end of the day, our differences will be seen. But at the end of the day, the work has to be done. Nothing should stop the work.
Yeah, somebody said, campaigning's the time to campaign and governing's the time to govern, right? So bad things have happened during every campaign. We can't let it dictate what we do for the community moving forward. And I think we can't lose sight of that, just keeping, let bygones be bygones, hopefully, because even the squabbling post campaigns, people don't want to see that. They're still looking at the underlying issues.
Right. And I guess, as you move forward working in the minority, it's going to be tough, I guess, because you look at so many issues that you have been vocal about, and you're very passionate about why you're vocal about them, whether it's the police department, whether it's city manager, whether it's how things are being done with city management. And I guess it has a way of upsetting or rubbing people the wrong way, because it brings to light something that perhaps nobody knows. I understand that there's some things going on now that are just breaking people's barriers when they hear about them. So with that being said, do you feel that your olive branch approach is going to help to make what we need to happen as we move forward better, or do you think you're still going to see the personal or the infight?
Yeah, well, I'm forever the optimist. I'm committed to push forward for what's right for everyone and what's right for our community. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how it will affect, but I do think being focused, keeping our focus on that, not letting kind of the outside distractions, shift our focus, not being sucked into fights that we don't need to be a part of, and just maintaining the focus on what makes Tallahassee better. I mean, there's issues. There'll be a new issue every month. That's the nature of government. Something somebody's concerned about, something we need to do better, something we're not doing good enough. That's the nature of the job. But I think we have an opportunity as a community to band together, ask more and expect more of our elected officials, including me, all of us. And I think if we can do that as a community, I wouldn't want to be a commissioner that's pushing back against that.
Wow. Well, listen, for those of you who are tuned into the broadcast, we are talking with City Commissioner Jeremy Matlow. And basically, we are just really getting an insight and getting an update on his positions, his outlook. This is the first time, man, I've been here for about 8 years, and this is the first time that you and I have really had an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. And certainly I want to say thank you for accepting the invite to come, because I'm sure you was wondering that. Because at the end of the day, man, it's about how do we really come together at a time that like this to work together for the betterment of the people. And whether you eat steak and I eat bologna, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we can figure out how do we unite, that one day I'll be able to eat steak. But at the end of the day, no one should be left behind when it comes to this process. And those who are serving on the dais, whether it's city, whether it's county, whether it's state representatives, it should always have the people at the forefront of the work. And in the process of that, whatever our differences may be, we should see how do we rectify those and move forward for the betterment of our people. With that being said, one of the things that I want to ask you today is, when you look at our city government now, and when you look at a major presence, just retired, Cynthia Barber, after 34 years, and just retired, and basically was someone that our community embraced, someone that our community felt like we could call on, we could be there for. Do you feel that presently now there is that kind of community engagement?
That's a good question. At times, I was at Cynthia's retirement ceremony, and seeing the historic pictures, I think was really cool.
Right.
To see her history. And Cynthia, I think, was somewhat of an unsung hero in the city. I mean, the amount of work she did behind the scenes with different staff members, different departments, fighting for the public good. Most of the city will probably never know.
Absolutely.
It's just happened. That's a true public servant. The work is done. And so the question is, do we still have that in the city? I would say that there are people like that within city government, but I do think as people retire, people move on. Those are very big shoes to fill. And are we doing it in a way that'll have the same impact? And I guess my answer is I don't know. I think I've expressed concern about city management at the highest levels myself, because I think a lot of that community, that desire to do what's best for the community, got lost in the mix of either the projects or interpersonal dynamics or political dynamics, and all those sorts of things. And I don't think that should be in the management level. And I praise Cynthia for that. She was never in the political circle. She was just doing the work. She was doing the hard work.
And I think that's important. I think that's important. And I think that one of the most important things is that, you know, we are able to have that kind of touch with everyone, whether they're in the political spectrum of the city or they're just an everyday person working. I think that's the kind of personality and that's the kind of touch that she had. You mentioned city management. I know you are very vocal about the top tier of city management. What do you see in your future of city management? What it needs to look like if it's not looking like what you feel it should look like?
Yeah, so one, I think we need a city manager that is respectful and has a good working relationship with all of our commissioners and the mayor, as well as our community at large. You know, it's almost become tribal in the same sense as the commission is of, you know, who should we listen to, whose opinion matters more. I think the best of city management is the hard decisions are being made at the elected official level in the public meeting, and then they're going in dutifully executing the vision of the elected body. I think that's how it was designed. Too often we see the two overlap where maybe one politician will try to put too much pressure on the city management to do something personally. We saw that historically, or vice versa, where a city manager maybe is behaving too much like a politician themselves. And that's kind of been my view. You know, I met with dozens of city employees that have had a hard time under the current management structure and told some heartbreaking stories. I've had my own experience with him as well. It's no secret that, you know, I called on him to be replaced. And, you know, as a business owner and somebody who manages hundreds of employees, you know, for me, it was, you know, once I realized I was being lied to directly, I couldn't continue a relationship like that. You can't have a relationship built on mutual respect and trust if one party is willing to be dishonest. So is that repairable? It's hard to think it is, but I think as we look for management and the type of people who the whole community can respect, and historically, I think we have had that. I think we had that with Anita Favors. I think we had that with Dan Clayman, where they both had pulled their weight in different ways. But I think at the end of the day, everybody in our community respected those individuals, and I don't think we have that right now. And it's still a change I'd like to see.
So with you seeing what you see, experiencing, being in the minority when it comes to your recommendations, your motions, your opportunities to see things better, how do you break those barriers? How do you, create the opportunity for the unification to take place? I mean, in the climate that we're in, I mean, we need everybody working together. How do you do it?
Yeah, I think it's by example. I think where we can find, even if it's small things, right? Even if it's naming a transit center, what are the small, easy wins? How can we build these relationships back? We all know we're not going to be the same commissioners there. I mean, this commission could change 4 times over in the next 10 years, 20 years, right? So it'll always be new people. So how do we make sure every election cycle we're talking in such a way that gives people the space to express their opinion and achieve their goals? And we can figure that out if we can get past the interpersonal dynamics and really just let everybody lay their cards on the table in good faith. I think you can get there. I think ultimately that ball is always going to be changing. Elections are always going to happen, and 1 or 2 may be replaced at a time, whether that's me or Jack or somebody else doesn't run. We never know. But I think we learned a valuable lesson of when the infighting gets so loud and so constant that everybody checks out. They don't want anything to do with it. And we're seeing that locally. I mean, even nationally. Yeah. Well, what we saw last night, when we have a president chastising one party and they're protesting, holding up signs, and they very strong feelings, and a lot of them I think are justified. But I do think we need to make sure the end result isn't people checking out and not caring, because then we'll just get a worse product.
Wow. And you know what? And that's why I feel that we're in a time and we're in a moment in our city, in our local area, whereby there needs to be a sense of harmony. Then everybody needs to be. I mean, we don't all have to agree, but at the end of the day, let's become agreeable. Let's move in whatever is best, regardless to what commissioner has the great ideal. Let's move forward for the betterment of our people, of our city. And your voice has been one that, like you said earlier, has been very opposing in so many arenas, whether it's the chamber, whether it's the state attorney, whether it's the police department, whether it's the fire department, wherever. You are stating your views, your opinions, until someone can give you accurate or more correct information. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I go a step further until people recognize even some of the things that we're not doing well enough that people in our community want to see. I think I'm a great messenger and liaison with people who are unsatisfied with government, and being able to go to the table and negotiate on their behalf. And I think nobody's asking for everything, right? Nobody's asking for us to build every sidewalk that needs to be built immediately in neighborhoods that are left behind. But we do want to see that these neighborhoods being invested in at the same level, even maybe a slightly greater level than some of the new construction that we're seeing. Because I think people see, when you're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars flow into new development for a new roadway, and you still don't have a sidewalk in front of your school, that leaves you feeling a certain type of way. And I think letting people know that we have a plan to get there, letting people know that it is coming, we have a strategy, and they are being listened to, and frankly, their views matter. The things that they want to see matter to their elected officials. And progress might not be as fast as I'd like to see, but I think if we can get there, it'll build people's confidence back. They'll want to come back and engage in city decisions, and we can move forward together where there's everybody compromises a little bit. Everybody doesn't get everything they want, but we're moving in a direction that the majority of people in Tallahassee feel like is the right way to go.
And I think you're so correct about that, because if you're moving in a direction where people feel that we're moving, then it makes for a happy and a more conducive relationship. Hey, for those of you who are just tuned in, we are talking to City Commissioner Jeremy Matlow, and certainly we're thankful for him accepting the invite to join us right here on the Great James Community Show. So listen, let me ask you this, because we're running out of time, but I don't want to leave the airways without asking you. If you was at the Waffle House, I'll ask you there and I'll post a picture. So listen, there have been talk, news is circulating throughout communities, and names are surfacing when it comes to mayor of Tallahassee. I had a conversation with a young man the other day, and I posted it on Facebook. Next thing I know, it was in the Democrat. So I'm having a conversation with you. I don't know whether you're listening or not over at the Democrat, but it's been circulating that you may be considering running for mayor. Is there anything?
Yeah, well, I think if you read the Democrat, everybody and their mother's running for mayor right now. But
your name is in it. Your name is in it.
It may have been. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is. But I think it would be an honor to serve as the mayor of Tallahassee, to continue the work that we've been doing. I think it's a little premature for the conversation. We're just off the last election. Mayor Daley hasn't really shown an indication of what he intends to do moving forward. So I do tell people I would like to, because as we have this conversation of how we bring our community back together, that's the first thing that people ask me. And I think it's important to be open and honest about that. But I think regardless of if I run for mayor or who's mayor in the future, solving this underlying issue of the toxicity and on the city commission has to come first.
Right.
You know, whether it really doesn't matter if we can't solve that. It's just you're changing you're playing musical chairs, and we're still stuck in that same environment. So I think that will be a conversation we'll be having next year, and I think people will, we don't know how many candidates will show up, if there will be open seats, but I do think it'll be a great opportunity for people to get back engaged, let people know what they're concerned about, and give us your honest feedback. I've sat at tables like this one over coffee, and people have opened up to me about their dissatisfaction in government, whether it's on the side of you guys don't listen to anything we're saying and the developers get everything they want, or on the other side of it's too hard to do business in our community and all you guys do is fight, right? So how do we bridge all of that as a community, which I think will be the conversation moving forward. But I think we have a year right now. It's not an election year. We don't need to focus on it and really see where we can find that common ground to bring the community together. Because if we start campaigning right now, we'll be apologizing every other week until 2026, and we don't need to get stuck in that. We really need to accomplish what we can together.
Well, I mean, it's surfacing, and the conversation is out there, and as you know, there are people who are heavily considering that, and as you stated, I think it's so important that the toxicity, that we figure out what is the prescription to remedy that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do we show a real united dais? How do we show a dais that really respects the views and the opinions of each other? Make conscious votes, and everyone moves forward. Even if I disagree,
Mm-hmm.
I know that we're working towards a better city for the people. Long road ahead.
It is, yeah.
And I certainly want to say thank you for joining me today. And with the few minutes that I have left, what would you say to the thousands upon thousands that are tuned in to us today?
I would just tell people, your local government is still here to serve you. It's still your government. Y'all still pay the taxes. The decisions we're making impact your lives just as much as they impact anybody else's lives. So, I mean, if there's an issue that is important to you, if there's an issue, something that's not being addressed, if there's, not even if it's an issue that we are addressing, like affordable housing, but we're not moving, quick enough, or if you have ideas of what other cities are doing and ways we can do things better. We get these calls, all the time, like, this is what this community is doing. Can we do something like this here? Not enough youth opportunities in our community. Like, what can we do to increase those types of things? There's potholes in my neighborhood, and my neighborhood every day. I mean, the basic stuff, or even the high level stuff of, this is what our community could be, should look like, if we all collectively get on the same page of the same vision. So I think if you have ideas, let your city commissioners know, let the mayor know. If you see things happening that are good, if you have a good experience with a city Tallahassee employee, let us know that too. It's always great to be able to share that feedback when things are going right. And if you see areas where we can do better, let us know, because without community engagement and feedback, we're just guessing if we're doing the right thing or not. So it's so helpful to hear from the people.
Wow. Over the last 6 years, what would you say one of the most proudest moments has been for you as a city commissioner?
I think the most proud moment to me is when, hundreds of people talk to their neighbors and they come out on an issue, and it's almost miserable as a city commissioner, honestly, to listen to hours and hours and hours of people advocate, and then see government kind of listen to that advocacy and make a change that's really impactful, because that's government at its best.
Yes.
It's representing people. They're engaged, and we're in real time, maybe changing our minds on the fly. And, that's probably happened at least a handful of times, but I think it's always real cool to see, because you're not going to get that at state government. You're not going to get that from a president or Congress or that type of interaction and listening. And it goes so far that people will come and talk about things that we don't have any control of, that they like to see us impact. So, being able to serve that role, to be stopped in public by a complete stranger and have them say, thanks for what you're doing, thanks for advocating for me. I feel like I have a representative up there. There's really not a greater feeling than that, or just something that validates what 6 years of chaotic campaigns has really been for, and it's worth it.
Wow, that's it, man. Do you get a chance to visit some of the departments and meet some of the regular everyday employees that are with the city?
Yeah, so we've done tours of maybe every department over the years, and then I interact with them as a citizen, right? It's so cool. Whether it's your utility and you have an issue, or code enforcement, or the folks at the airport, or the Tallahassee Police Department, which has always been great and professional when we needed them. The fire department, we interact with them as commissioners and get to learn their experience and hear what it's like to work for the city, but also it's just people who live here. You're in contact with a city employee probably every day, whether you realize it or not. And, that workforce, couple thousand people, they're not in the political sphere. They're just showing up to work, clocking out every day and keeping our city working, and, always thankful for their service.
Wow. When is the next commission meeting?
The next commission meeting, we got about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay. We meet monthly now. So every month on the third Wednesday.
So it's not twice a month?
No, they changed the schedule last year. So we used to meet twice a month, and now it's monthly with a couple sprinkled in between.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, certainly we want to thank you for joining us today. And certainly I want to say to all of the listeners, I hope that you were inspired, informed, as we talk with City Commissioner Jeremy Matlow. And certainly we want to say, continue doing the work, and continue fighting to bridge the gap, and continue extending the olive branch to create the kind of unity that needs to be created to help make our city continually be a great city right here in the city of Tallahassee. Well, listen, this has been the Greg James Community Show. Don't forget now, we are rolling out new voices. That's right, new voices for the month of March. It's going to be voices like Nikki Collins every second Wednesday with Life in the Now. Every third Wednesday, it's going to be Felicia Stanley. That's right, Raw Combo. And then on the fourth Wednesday, it's going to be, that's right, the Conscious Chick. And you'll catch me on the first Wednesday of every month, and maybe sometimes on the fourth Wednesday, but on the first Wednesday of every month. We're expanding. We are giving more voices volume right here on Hallelujah 95.3, right here on the Greg James Community Show. Until we meet again, until we decide to join you back on the airwaves, you keep yourselves in a place whereby you can make a difference, and you make a difference by doing what's right, even when it's not popular. Until then, have a blessed one. Hey, listen, I want to thank all of you all for joining us, and certainly want to thank our commissioner for joining us on this wonderful Wednesday. Listen, y'all be blessed. Have an amazing